Hello and welcome to Video Game Hangover. I'm Randy Dickinson and I'm in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Hey, I'm DJ Ross in Mountain View, California.
Each week on Video Game Hangover, we talk about the games that have been keeping us up at night. This week that list includes Kentucky Route Zero. Plus we've got more from, is it Route or Route Zero?
Route? I think you can go with either one.
Is there a geographic difference?
Oh, maybe.
Are they routes
Kentucky?
In Pennsylvania and routes in California?
I don't even know what I say normally. You're making me second guess myself.
I know. We'll dig into that later. But we've also got more on Life is Strange Season 2. And DJ has been playing Monster Hunter, it says here, everywhere.
It's inescapable.
Just everywhere you can. Monster Hunter, the Instant Pot edition.
Right. All right. 3 weeks with that Instant Pot joke in a row. Time to get some new material.
I just really want to play video games on my Instant Pot, DJ.
Somebody is working on it. Just be patient.
I'm sure. Absolutely.
Is Instant Pot a brand, or it's not like the Samsung Instant Pot?
No, I think Instant Pot is the brand.
Okay. Well, now I feel less confident that somebody is working on it. Because, obviously somebody is endeavoring to put video games or like just more outlets for video games into your kitchen appliances or your washing machine or whatever. But like if all they do is make Instant Pot, I don't know what the roadmap is.
Yeah. Nor do I. Maybe they need to sort of work something out with Google, get the Stadia on Instant Pot.
Yeah, they need to work out something with the Stadia.
Right. Get the Stadia on something other than a Pixel phone. That'd be a good start. Maybe
the big secret feature of the PlayStation 5 is it will just be able to make chili for you in like 5 hours with one button.
That's fine. Man, my PS3 used to get so hot you could probably make chili on it. So anyway, all right, I will retire the Instant Pot joke. I apologize.
It was ahead of its time, the PlayStation 3.
It was, yes. Yeah, it was a true multitasker. So a little show news at the start here. I will be in Boston for PAX East in just a few short weeks. So starting February 26th, I'll be there, getting my game on. So if you're going to be there, you should definitely find me. Track me down on social media. I am Randy_Rect on Twitter. I will have Video Game Hangover stickers and buttons I can give you. Maybe we can get a beer or something. So definitely track me down if you're going to PAX East.
Sounds fun.
Yeah, it should be a good time.
What are are there any big show highlights coming up? Have they announced the schedule yet?
Not that I've seen.
They usually do that real late, so it might be a little early to ask.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like there is this sort of great big gray kind of fog of war on video game releases after April, May. I don't really have a clue what comes out in the back half of the year, so I'm not sure what developers are even showing. Yeah.
Well, it'll be interesting to hear the report from the show floor, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. So I will definitely be chiming in on that. Probably tons and tons of indie games. That's generally where I spend my time.
Yeah.
That's always a fun sort of discovery, kind of wandering around and going, oh, what is this thing? Oh, what the hell is this thing? Rather than, waiting in line for 6 hours for the, Doom demo or whatever. So, yes, I know how Doom works. I don't need to wait 6 hours for it.
It comes out pretty soon.
Yeah. Yep. Same day as Animal Crossing.
Oh. What's it going to be?
I wonder how that's going to go. Yeah. So what else? What do you got going on in life, DJ? How's things?
Oh, things are things.
Things
it's
are
fine.
Things. Excellent. Good. Super Bowl Sunday. You excited about getting your Super Bowl on today?
Yeah. Yes. We're recording this on Sunday.
Yep.
Before the Super Bowl. So by the time you hear this, the Super Bowl will be long gone.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. It's a weird time to talk about it because it has not yet occurred. But
and by the time anybody hears this,
they will already have heard everything presumably about it. So I don't know. How about those commercials? Those were interesting.
Let's go this way with it. How about the Puppy Bowl, DJ? Did that end the way that you thought it would? Who did you have? Money on?
What a tragic end to this year's Puppy Bowl. Just the crocodiles got loose and just really made a mess of everything.
Oh.
Do you usually watch the Puppy Bowl?
I generally, catch it on YouTube the next day, I think. So,
okay, yeah. You DVR the Puppy Bowl.
No, that would be probably the highlight for me today. That's really the only thing that I would probably ever tune in for, so.
That's one of those things where I'm just like, like mildly shocked that it happens every year.
The Puppy Bowl or the Super Bowl?
Maybe both at this point. I mean, Super Bowl less so. But I don't know how long the Puppy Bowl has been going on, but it just seems like, oh, that's kind of fun alternative Super Bowl programming. But then it's like, oh, they're doing it again? Oh, they're still doing it? Like, it's like the 50th anniversary of the Puppy Bowl? Weird.
I believe it's the 10th. If I remember seeing the ads correctly, it is the 10th anniversary of the Puppy Bowl.
Wow, that was a lot.
Yeah. It's a big animal adoption event, too. I think they use it a lot to sort of bring people's attention to rescue animals and stuff like that. So I think it has, other than being sort of super cute and entertaining, it has a bit of a social value as well.
That's nice.
Yeah. I'm a fan.
All right. Well, I will try and adopt 2 or 3 puppies later.
Yeah, please, yes. All the puppies. I expect a full report next week from your puppy-filled house.
Okay, great. Other than that, I don't know. Just hanging out this weekend, playing some video games. How about you?
Time well spent. Likewise, yeah.
It's kind of what we do. Yeah. I don't know why. It's like, we play video games again this week? Weird.
Well, come as a surprise to no one that, I spent a lot of my weekend playing video games.
Yeah.
Yep.
I saw we were sharing our, PlayStation year-end reports.
Yes.
Which were not like, I don't know. I get a lot of these year-end reports from like Spotify and Last.fm and mostly music services, I guess. I feel like the PlayStation one is not up to par compared to some of these other services.
Because you watch movies a lot on your PlayStation, right? And you feel like that
was another surprising thing.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of Netflix or whatever on my PS4, which doesn't show up in like the top 10 apps used, but it does increment the playtime stat apparently. Oh. So if you looked at my wrap up, not knowing this, it would look like I played nearly 1,000 hours of video games last year, which is kind of frightening. I don't know if it's less frightening that I watched 1,000 hours of TV and movies, right. But whatever.
We're judging you either way, DJ. So. Yeah, mine was only about 200 hours total time, but I don't stream anything on the PS4. Yeah, and a lot of that time. I guess not surprisingly, looking back on my year, was Destiny 2. What were the other ones? Slime Rancher and Control were my top 3 kind of most amount of time spent with video games.
Yeah.
On the PS4 anyways, yeah. So maybe Slime Rancher is probably the surprise break-in for the top 3. I'm like, wow, I really was kind of hooked on that game, I guess.
Yeah, I remember you were into it.
Yeah, just one of those eternal game loops that just keeps on giving and giving and giving, so.
And I thought it was interesting. The most interesting piece of that report to me was the heaviest day of the week that you play typically, and I think ours were both Saturday.
Yes.
Which was like, oh, that's kind of cool. I wish they would show more of a breakdown for all of these stats, because that's something that like Last.fm, for instance, will do. They'll give you the daily breakdown and also like an hourly breakdown of when you listen to music most during the day. Yeah, that's really cool. It kind of just tracks to when I am awake and at my desk working on stuff. But it's still kind of cool to see that kind of mapped out.
I have to really drill into that stuff on Last.fm, because I certainly look at kind of like who my favorite artists over time are and stuff like that, but I've never really gotten into kind of the minutia of that. Mm-hmm. I'll have to dig. But yeah, Last.fm is awesome. I've had my account on Last.fm for years, and I continue to look for ways. Anytime I get a new device or a new music service in my life, I try to make sure that it's still feeding my plays to Last.fm and tracking all of that stuff.
Mm-hmm. I'm dreading the day when they just run out of money, or Apple closes all the little API holes let them plug into the iTunes or whatever. So it stops working, and I'm just like, oh no, all these years of just diligently recording my musical preferences. What was it all for?
Yep. That is one of the things I liked about, one of the many things I liked about the 3DS. It had the little playtime tracker in it that you could pop open a little app, and it would tell you kind of longest session, the games that you spent the most amount of time in, all like forced ranked by playtime and stuff like that. And yeah, so I don't know, I dig that minutia. I think that's really, really cool, and I like kind of poring over that stuff. There was always a thread on the 3DS subreddit about like, what game did you play the most in February? Post a little bit about it below and why you've been playing so much time with it and stuff like that. So yeah, I wish more consoles had something like that kind of baked into kind of analyzing your playtime.
So that's why I wanted the PlayStation thing to go into more detail, because they only gave like the top 3 games, and I don't even remember what else. It was like another top 3 of something, but it was like only 3.
Yeah.
And there were only a couple different categories that it went into, but I want to know, I want those hourly playtime statistics. I want to know what my longest gaming session was and all that.
Yeah.
Just the weird kind of fringe stats that I would.
The PlayStation one was funny because it was sort of like, you played 55 different games this week. This year. Here's your top 3. And I was like, no, I want my top 55. I want to know all.
Playing 55 games this year.
Yeah. I want to know the one that I spent a minute and a half with and went, nope, out.
Yeah. What are the bottom 3?
Yeah. So if you had an app that tracked your playtime for this past week, DJ, what game have you been playing the most in the last 7 days?
Oh, probably Monster Hunter World. Yeah. Well, I mean, no, probably Final Fantasy 14, but Monster Hunter World is up there.
Yeah.
The thing is, like, I will get home and, like, after dinner, I will just log in to Final Fantasy and just leave it there. So it's just kind of there. But I can be playing Monster Hunter at the same time, so that's what I've been getting into a little bit.
Wow. What a multitasker you are.
I know, you're real efficient. I'll tell you what I probably spent the least amount of time playing this week, though, was Kentucky Route Zero.
Oh, really?
It was real short. I mean, I played Act 1, which was very short.
Yes. It is a game in multiple acts. So yes, that game is chunked out in a weird way. And I'm playing the TV edition, which collects all the acts. And there's some little interstitial stuff, too, that they put out. Collects it all into one kind of package. But yeah, it is a game that is sort of divided into a bunch of little kind of micro PlayStations. Not PlayStations, play sessions. Yeah.
Right. I haven't meaning to play this thing for years. I actually had it on Steam. But this, the first episode came out in 2013, I think.
Yeah,
so
that sounds
talking
right.
about, kind of complaining recently about, man, Life is Strange 2. I can't believe it took an entire year to put out 5 episodes. Meanwhile, these people playing Kentucky Route Zero are just like, where is the rest of it? Where is it? They've been waiting for 7 years, and finally the last piece of it came out in this last week.
Mm-hmm.
So, be thankful for what you have if you're playing episodic games, I guess. But anyway, I think it was partly because of that reason that I just never got around to starting it, because it's like, well, they haven't really finished making the game, right? And they seem to take their time between releases, so maybe I'll wait until there's a better idea of when this whole thing is going to be available. But lo and behold, here it is. So I was like, fine, let's do it.
Yeah, I think the TV edition that they're putting out for consoles coincides with kind of the release of the final episode, I believe, right, of Kentucky Route Zero. So it is now a complete package, a complete story arc, rather than this thing that was sort of drip fed over time. Yeah, I guess we could explain a little bit about what it is. It is it's kind of essentially a point and click adventure game, very dialogue heavy, about a man and his dog who are trying to make a delivery.
I would like to submit that based on what I've played, it is actually like an old school text adventure game that is masquerading as a graphical point and click adventure game.
Oh, okay, that's an interesting way to go. I've limited experience with like Zork, right? Is that sort of the gold standard for?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, I could see that absolutely.
And I don't mean that in a disparaging way or anything, but I just there's such a text component to it. There's like a lot of dialogue and a lot of like just internal narration or description in each scene, and I actually really like the writing so far. It's been
me too.
Pretty clever, I think.
Definitely.
And it definitely has that text adventure vibe. So I was just like, this feels like something else, even though it looks like this other thing.
Yeah. I want to come back to that because I have observations on that. But you're the hook of this thing is you're a delivery person trying to complete a delivery, and it will require you finishing your job will require you taking the Kentucky Route Zero, which is this mysterious, possibly underground highway that is hard to get onto, hard to make your way around, and through the course of this journey, encountering a cast of interesting and strange characters, your group kind of slowly grows over time to include other people that you've met along the road. And lots of character exposition, lots of just interesting and unusual characters that you encounter. It feels very Twin Peaksy in a way that everybody's just a hair more eccentric than they would be, and you're
it's
normal
very
kind
surreal.
of. Yeah, absolutely. It definitely has a surrealist bend to it. But a lot of people sort of talk in kind of cryptic and mysterious ways, and you're left to kind of wonder, I have no idea what you're talking about, Ladylands. Yeah.
There's always, I like how, you're frequently given dialogue options for how you can respond to stuff, and there's usually like the one option where you kind of indulge them in whatever weird thing they just said.
Yeah.
And then the other option is like, well, I really need to make this delivery, so
please just stay
tell
on task.
me.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's something that I think is sort of interesting about the way that it handles the dialogue, is that you're not necessarily making choices about like what to do and where to go in the game. You're making kind of unusual choices about like backgrounds of characters, in the sense that you're, a character will sort of say, I grew up in, and you can pick from options. I grew up in Connecticut, New York, or Pennsylvania. And it doesn't give you any information about like what color those choices will have on the story. It doesn't feel like there's a thing where like, well, if I pick Pennsylvania, everybody dies at the end. So it is unusual in the way that it handles those choices compared to maybe your standard kind of Telltale game or A Life is Strange, in that it doesn't necessarily feel like the choices you're making, at least immediately, at least in some sort of narrative way, have any impact on the story you're telling.
Right. It feels almost like you are helping to write all the characters' backstory and kind of directing it in a different way.
Yeah, but I'm not sure, and I've not played to the end yet. I've played the first 3 episodes, and I'm not sure if those choices have any bearing on where the story goes ultimately. Not that it needs to. I guess maybe I'm just sort of weaned on the Telltale style of, this character will remember this choice later, and then something consequential will happen to you in episode 4. Yeah, I don't know. I dig it, though. I think it's really interesting. There's parts of the game where you're trying to sort of like create a password for somebody to log into a computer, and you're just picking random words. It's the password is a poem, and you pick the next line in the poem, and it will give you 3 options, all of which have some sort of poetic value. And you just pick one, and yes, that turns out to be the right one. There's a situation later in the game where there's a character who sings in a bar, and you're choosing the words to the song that she's singing. And again, I'm not aware of like what consequence the word choices make, but you're essentially just helping her shape the song, kind of write this poem. The whole game has a very kind of lyrical, kind of poetic quality to it. And yeah, like you said, I really admire the writing. I dig that it is kind of ambiguous and surreal in that way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm a fan. I've only played the first episode so far because for some reason in my brain I was like, okay, if it was like years between episodes, it feels wrong that I would just blitz through the whole thing in a weekend. so I decided I'm just going to do this first one and, give it a little bit of time to sink in and whatever before moving on to the next one. And I liked it. It felt real slight, though. And I think part of that is I didn't really... I stayed pretty close to kind of what it felt like the central path through the episode.
Oh, okay.
It seemed like there's opportunity to go kind of exploring around and trying other choices, but I didn't really get into that, so I'll probably go back and do that.
Yeah.
Trying to put myself in those shoes as people who were like just waiting for episode 2 to come out.
Yeah. There's a segment of the game, and this comes back to this quite a bit, that's essentially a map. And your sort of your progress through the game is depicted by kind of a spinning wheel on the map, and you kind of roll around the routes and the highways and the byways and the side roads and stuff like that. Because other characters in the game will give you directions. Stay on Route 66, take a left when you see the firehouse. It's stuff like that. So you're kind of looking for landmarks and trying to navigate your way around, interacting with characters in the interest of completing your delivery.
Yeah, that was super exciting because it was not like, you get directions to someplace and then, oh, surprise, a big glowing waypoint marker shows up on your map. You need to be like, oh, when did they say to turn? You need to kind of like navigate the highways a little bit, looking for specific streets that they named.
Right. But the thing that I have found kind of interesting is that it I don't know if it rewards you, but it gives you additional interactions, additional stops, a little more narrative, a little more story if you wander off the path a little bit. I got lost the first time I was looking for something and kind of wandered down a road, and a little icon kind of popped up as I passed something on the highway, and I went, oh, what is that? Let's do that. Indulge that. And you click the button, and big stops in the map that are sort of consequential to the story will have some animation and kind of character visual and stuff behind the text. But this stop was just a block of text that opened up. It was just a chunk of information, of story. So it was just something to read that kind of filled in some of the color of this place on the map and what had happened there. And then, oh, that's cool. Let's find more of those. So I was just spinning the wheel up and down streets on the map, trying to figure out if there were other little places of the story that I could get more of that info. That was kind of cool. It was really kind of an interesting way to, one, kind of do a choose your own adventure, but two, just really kind of indulge narrative in a game that is clearly trying to tell a big story.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I didn't do much of that, and I felt by the end of the act, I was like, oh, I feel like there was more kind of in the fringes that I overlooked. So kind of going back to it and seeing what else is out there.
Yeah, definitely kind of meander down some of those side roads.
Did you try the interludes also?
Yes, yeah. They're these little kind of little things that kind of pop up between episodes, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not really, I didn't spend a lot of time in the menus trying to actually figure out like what is included in like the TV edition of this, because I ended up playing the Switch version also.
Oh, okay.
But I heard that like there are these interludes that are not really, like you said, they come between the main acts and are kind of just all over the place in terms of content, I think.
Yeah. So far,
but those
it
are all
seems like
in there, correct?
Yeah, they do. They pop up. I chose, and I wasn't going to jump into the middle of this thing, obviously, but I'm playing it on the Switch as well, and chose to just play it from the beginning. And there's a wheel of all of the episodes and interstitials, a little mini episodes in between as you get to them. And I'm just sort of playing it from one to the next, to the next, to the next. And as you finish one, it goes, do you want to start this next one? Do you want to start Netflix? Are you still watching? Do you keep, yeah. Yes, I'm still playing. Let's keep doing this. And yeah, I have found so far that the little kind of episodes in between, the little mini episodes, give you a little more, again, more backstory on some of the secondary characters.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Yeah. In the, no spoiler here, but in the second episode, there is a clerk at a business that you're trying to connect with. And the little interstitial basically gives a little kind of background motivation on her, on why she's there and what her life is like outside of work. But in the context of the episode, it's really just her sitting behind a desk and kind of being a touch point for the story. So it does allow, at least in that one incident, the game to kind of, I don't know, dig a little deeper into some of the people who are basically just NPCs.
That's cool.
Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. And it made me sort of a little more interested in her when you finally got to her. I was like, oh, is this going to be a character of consequence? And she really is not in any other way. So it was just kind of cool to indulge her life story a little bit up before the point where she sat at that desk and gave you the little nugget of information you need to be able to proceed.
Nice.
Yeah. It's cool. It is a very interesting approach to narrative. I don't know that I would necessarily have the patience for the trickle of this over the course of 7 years. So I'm happy to have it all in one package to be able to kind of play through. It's not obscenely long. I think the episodes that I've played thus far have been, geez, the shortest was probably 20-25 minutes, probably that first one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and the third episode is a little bit longer, a little more substantial, probably 45 minutes or so. But like I said, I've gotten kind of lost on the highway deliberately a little bit. So your mileage may vary, I guess.
Yeah, I think the first one maybe took me an hour and a half even. I was surprised because I heard it was very short and it felt like it was taking me longer than it should have.
Oh, wow.
But even then, I felt like, I should have just spaced it out even more and spent some time looking around all the side roads and all that.
Yeah, it seems to be built for that, so I would encourage that.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, I'm looking forward to playing Act 2 in 2 or 3 years.
I may just step up the pace a little, DJ. I need somebody to talk about this with.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'll probably play it next week. But
yeah, that's good.
I can't even imagine, probably Life is Strange 1 is the closest comparison I have to something like this, where I was just like, when's the next episode coming out? And in Life is Strange 1's case, the answer was always 2 to 3 months from now, not 2 years from now. I can't even begin to comprehend what that must have been like.
Yeah. I'll throw in one last little thing that I really kind of love about the game is you do have a character, a dog that you travel with named Blue. And it's a little a hound dog, and he kind of moseys around the map with you every now and then. Everywhere you go, he sort of slowly kind of gates behind you. And characters that you occupy, and you don't always play as the same character. You can kind of bounce from different characters throughout the course of the narrative. But nearly everybody wants to interact with Blue. Who doesn't want to talk to the dog, right? So I always, anytime you have an opportunity to sort of embody a different character, wander over and have some interaction with Blue. And it doesn't actually give you Blue's dialogue, just the person's reactions to what Blue would ostensibly be saying to you. So you'll ask, how are you doing today, Blue? Oh, good. I'm happy to hear that. Would you like a treat? Cool. Let me see if I can find one for you. And so it does sort of take up. Yeah, I always want a treat. Absolutely. So yeah, I spend a little bit of my time as I'm interacting with other characters going, who has the treat that I can bring back to Blue? So there's that Twitter account, Can You Pet the Dog? That logs all of the instances in video games where if there's a dog, can you pet it?
They must have gotten this one already.
Yeah, I'm sure Kentucky Route Zero is in there somewhere, but even more than just being able to pet the dog, you can have really just kind of long, kind of soul-searching conversations with Blue if you choose to, or just bring her a treat. But yeah, it's good. I really kind of love the way that they play it. And as a dog owner, certainly I've had awesome long conversations with my dogs in the past. So it's nice to see that kind of built into a video game.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, it's good. It's I'm excited to finally play it. I've certainly heard about it over the course of the years, but as somebody who's not adept at playing a lot of PC games, I never really had an opportunity to sit down and play it. And now that it's kind of on the Switch, and I believe they came out for PS4 and Xbox as well, I'm excited to have an opportunity to dig into it and see what the hubbub was about.
Yeah, I am. I'm looking forward to getting back into it.
So you mentioned Life is Strange 2. You're digging deeper into that. How far have you gotten now, and what's going on?
I am continuing on. I am through episode 3. Last week I talked about episode 2. And
is it 3 out of 5?
3 out of 5, yeah. Okay. And they're all available. Episode 3, I don't want to give just like a play-by-play of what is happening in this game, but I just want to say that I'm still really enjoying it. I thought episode 3 was interesting for a few reasons, because one is they've arrived, like the two brothers have arrived in Northern California, in Humboldt County. So, of course, they're immediately put to work on a weed farm with a bunch of other characters that they've run into, which I thought was just kind of goofy. And it's kind of an interesting detour on their kind of road trip down the coast. It's also an opportunity for them to just like have other characters that they interact with. Mm-hmm. I mean, they've been running into other characters who they'll like stop and hang out with for a while throughout the other previous episodes. But this one felt like kind of a slightly more permanent setting for them, because they're like hanging out with these like this hippie group and doing some work, and it feels like they've settled down slightly compared to just being on the run all the time. Mm-hmm. So that was kind of interesting. They also this was something that I thought was kind of funny based on my reactions or my comments last week, where I was talking about how I always tend to pick the most drama-free options out of all the choices that you're presented with, because that's just how I play these games, and I'm trying to keep Sean and his brother out of trouble. But in episode 3, it felt like they like baked more drama into all the situations just by default. Because what's going on is I figured out, as they're living in this commune, essentially, there are finally a bunch of other characters who are like Sean's age. Sean is the older brother. He's like a senior in high school. So naturally, he is kind of like, oh, finally people like sort of in my age group that I can just, hang out with and do all that stuff. Because up until this point, he's really just been like the caretaker for his little brother. Mm-hmm. So that's fun. It gives Sean an opportunity to like kick back for a little bit. But I realized that as you're allowing him to hang out with all these people in this group, you are doing that at the cost of like hanging out with Daniel, the little brother. And then whether it's just because this is the new situation for Daniel, or he's like getting kind of jealous that all these other people are around, there's like clearly kind of a rift forming between him and Sean. That you have to essentially manage by deciding like, well, maybe tonight I should, not hang out at the campfire with all these people and spend some time with Daniel in the tent while he's getting ready for bed and all that. So it feels very different. It feels like there's less of the like on the road survival aspect of the last few episodes. Mm-hmm. And the relationship between the boys is like even more so than before is like kind of the focus of this episode, which I thought was kind of surprising.
Is that good? Is that satisfying, or does it sort of verge on melodrama?
Sometimes it felt a little forced because I mean, like I've been trying so hard to just keep them like getting along, because like part of Sean's role up to this point has been to try and be like a father figure to Daniel because he doesn't have his parents. So that means occasionally you have to like come down on him a little bit and be like, okay, no, it's really time to go to bed now. We need to, get up early and be responsible, or like, don't use your powers all the time in public because he's got these telekinetic powers. And every time you tell him that, Daniel kind of gripes a little bit because he's just like, oh, it's not fair. And although, the little kid kind of stuff. But it just feels like despite the fact that you had to kind of keep him under control, I've been trying to like do that in a nice way. And in episode 3, it really feels like everything you do is kind of rubbing Daniel the wrong way. He's just like, oh, why can't I just hang out with all these cool guys like you're doing? And why are you always making up all these rules for me? So it feels like kind of a natural thing to develop, but it also runs a little bit counter to like, well, if I had everything going my way, this would just be like the perfect relationship between these two brothers. And, it'd be completely drama free and everyone would get along and all that. But on some level, that's just not a very interesting story. So I guess I'm glad they've taken a little bit of the control away from the player.
Right. Interesting. That's, it's smart. Yeah. I mean, you have a brother, I have a brother. And I definitely think as, my brother and I are only 4 years apart. I'm not, how close are you to your brother in terms of years?
A couple years.
So yeah, it's similar. I lived with my brother certainly as a kid, and then when I got my first place, he kind of moved in with me, and the same thing is you try to sort of be friends, but you also have to sort of a responsibility to kind of care for this younger person, and it doesn't always go the way that you want it to, and sometimes you say things to each other as family that you wouldn't say as friends, and that could be a problem sometimes too. So it is, I love my brother. We have so much in common, but I can imagine being sort of forced into a situation where I had to care for him 24 hours a day, that it would be heavy. Yeah.
It's rough because you can really tell that, that's pretty much Sean's approach to it. Like he wants to be friends with his brother, but at the same time, he realizes that, it's not just like taking care of a little kid, it's taking care of a kid who's got these potentially really dangerous powers, and they're in a kind of
I don't identify
dangerous
with that,
situation.
Obviously, but
right. So it's very complicated, and there's a lot of he understands that there are more consequences than usual for like if Daniel gets out of line.
Cool.
So yeah, it's been really good. It's I've heard a lot of people saying that it kind of went downhill from around this point, but I'm not finding that so far. I'm still really enjoying it.
Oh, good.
No spoilers, but the conclusion to this episode was so shocking that it really made me wonder what the format for episode 4 was going to be.
Oh, wow.
As I've been playing this, I've just assumed that, they're going down the coast. It's going to be this road trip thing. Eventually, they're going to end up in Mexico. That's just going to be like kind of the progression of this series as it goes along. And now I'm just like, I don't know what's going to happen. Or I hope this is not giving too much away, but I was just like, there was at one point I was just like, not sure who the main characters would be in episode 4.
Oh, wow.
I don't think that they would switch things up that dramatically. But for a second, I just had this flash that thought, well, what if they actually did? And they did this huge shift for episode 4, potentially the rest of the season.
That's pretty ballsy.
Yeah, I think it'd be something, but I peeked ahead a little bit, and it's not quite as a big of a departure as I theorized.
Oh.
But anyway, it's a very dramatic conclusion to this episode. Still, things seem to be shaken up quite a bit for episode 4, which I'm excited to get into. I'll probably just play that through to episode 5 and the end because it's really picking up.
Cool. And because you don't have to wait a year for it to come out.
Yeah, right. Let alone 7 years for everything to be available.
Yep.
I'm really pleased with it so far. with that in mind, though, I think it would be fascinating if somebody did something in this episodic format that was not always like tied to the same core group of characters. I don't know if that's really happened in any of these episodic games, but it always seems like you've got the main cast, and it's usually told, like the story is usually told from their perspective, and that is just a constant throughout the entire series.
Although the Telltale's Walking Dead shifted a little bit from episode to episode, and they were really kind of smart, at least in the early days of the Walking Dead series, for Telltale, not the TV show, but the Telltale games, in shifting some of that narrative around. I think there was a secondary, like a gap episode that came out that called like 100 Days or something like that.
Oh, that one actually did jump around a bit.
And it focused on a separate group of survivors of the zombie apocalypse. They later on in the series, they did a Michonne one that I think was just one or two episodes that was a side story of kind of fan favorite character Michonne from the Walking Dead series. So,
right.
And yeah,
but in the main game, you're always playing as like Lee and Clementine, right? At least in season 1.
Well, season 1, you're Lee in care of Clementine, and then later on in the series, yes, you're Clementine over years. You're her, I think, initially as a younger girl, and then her a little later in life.
Yeah.
But yeah, she is always kind of the focal character in that main part of the series.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd like to do one where, you're playing as, I don't know, Lee and Clementine, Sean and Daniel for a couple episodes. And then, like, I don't know, episode 3 and 4, it's like a completely different cast of characters.
Off on a different path,
Yeah, doing some parallel thing. I don't know. Maybe it's not appropriate for the, like, Life is Strange 2, but I don't know. If they do a third one, maybe it's more of an anthology thing.
Yeah. It seems like they're going that way with kind of the Life is Strange brand, because, I mean, this second season doesn't necessarily, in any way that you've said anyways, call back to the characters from the first series.
Right. That's something I really like about it. I would have been really disappointed if it was just the further adventures of Max Caulfield or whoever it was.
Yeah.
Oh, something I totally forgot to mention last week is that episode 2 is where the game finally connects up with that weird prologue game, that Adventures of Captain Spirit or whatever it was.
Oh, I remember you telling about that, yeah.
Yeah, it completely slipped my mind last week. But that
was like a little one episode kind of free to play that came out in between seasons, right? If I remember correctly.
So maybe that's the closest thing that they've gotten, or the closest they've gotten to whatever I was talking about, where they just bring in another character. But it was like a free prologue. It was like an hour or two long, where you just played as another little kid around Daniel's age. And going through the little prologue thing, it's just like, I don't know what this has to do with Life is Strange 2. Like, none of the game had actually come out at that point. It was kind of like an interstitial thing.
And it didn't seem to have any connection to Life is Strange 1 even, I think I remember you saying.
No, not at all. But finally in episode 2, they like end up running into this kid, Chris, again, and they spend a bunch of time with him throughout that episode.
And Chris is Captain Spirit?
Chris is,
Captain
interesting. Spirit is his secret identity, or vice versa, or whatever.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that was fun.
Cool. So has it connected to season 1?
It hasn't, aside from there will be like little offhand remarks referring to like Arcadia Bay, which is where Life is Strange 1 took place.
Mm-hmm.
But, no mention of the characters as far as I can remember. It's just kind of that city is a place that exists in the same world, obviously, because they're both in the Pacific Northwest,
right,
both seasons.
Interesting.
Yeah. I'm not sure. So I forget when Life is Strange 1 actually took place, like what year it took place. I feel like it would have been before season 2. I was just reading somewhere that Life is Strange 1 is actually just turned 5 years old, which is mind-blowing. So that would put it, I guess like 2014, 2015.
Uh-huh.
And this one
is season 2 supposed to be modern time?
It's like late 2016. They just had New Year, so it's 2017 now. It's still like a few years behind. Anyway, I just wanted to mention that because I completely forgot about it last week. I thought the payoff was really good. If you're going to play Life is Strange 2, I definitely recommend playing Captain Spirit ahead of time, because you've got the backstory to all those characters, sort of like that the little interlude in Kentucky Route Zero.
Cool. And you will chime in probably next week on kind of the grand wrap up here and whether or not it kind of sticks the landing.
Yeah, maybe not next week, but in the near future, because I plan on wrapping this up.
I was not a fan of the end of Life is Strange 1, and I was pretty angry about it, actually. So I'm curious to see if your take on the end of Life is Strange 2 is similar or
You
happier.
did not like... I mean, you didn't like Life is Strange 1 in general, right?
Yeah. I mean, I played through the whole thing, but so clearly there was some part of me that found it compelling and interesting. But
just on top of that, you thought the ending did not work well for...
No, I was really angry about it. I thought it was a game about... Yeah, in a lot of ways, sort of about choices, and then in the final act, it took away all of your choices. And I thought that pissed me off a lot. So I'm curious to see how if there's any progression or any change in the way that they approach the finale of Life is Strange 2.
Man, I thought Life is Strange 1 came together pretty well. Weird.
Yeah. Well, no, I don't disagree that it had sort of an appropriate ending, but throughout the game, there was a lot of you had time control powers in that the main characters. You could rewind time and make different choices. And in the final episode, they take that away from you. And I thought it was, I think a lot of it. And maybe memory has not aged it well in my brain, but I remember being very kind of PO'd that that this game was built on this hook where you could rewind time and make different choices, and then in the final act they took that away from you.
I thought that was, I mean, not to get into spoilers or anything, but I thought it was that was the reasoning, the justification behind the final decision you had to make. Anyway, we can discuss this later where we're not giving away the entire thing to people.
Yeah, absolutely. You and I sort of edging around the final. That thing that guy said, remember that time?
Yeah.
DJ. Yeah. So no, we won't go into any spoils of that stuff. People are probably still actively playing these games, but all right, we'll see what happens when you get to the end of Life is Strange 2.
Yeah.
Cool. And then Monster Hunter. What's where and when are you playing Monster Hunter, and what's different about it?
I just found myself playing this a lot again recently because it is the second anniversary of Monster Hunter World coming out. I guess it came out January 2018. So they have been doing this enormous festival thing where there are a bunch of new events and armor pieces and items you can obtain. All the past events that I've missed are back, so I've been getting into that a little bit. And this is my favorite thing about it. It is unlike the usual limited time events that they do, which only run for a week or two. This one has been going on for what feels like a month already, or maybe halfway through a month-long duration. So it doesn't have the same sense that the other ones had of just, oh my god, there's not enough time for me to do all this stuff during this event. I need to just play this game 24/7 while this event is on so I can get caught up in everything. It's allowed me to just play it at a very leisurely pace and kind of browse through all the quests that I've missed and see which ones look interesting and figure out which ones I actually want to do.
Are these the things that they've kind of released previously as limited time and they're sort of bringing them back now, but you have a little more time to indulge them?
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, or, I'll see the stuff when they come up the first time and be like, well, this looks fun, but in order to actually acquire all of this stuff or experience all the new quests, I need to, level up my hunter or whatever, get all this new gear, and then I have to actually run the quests themselves as many times as required or all that stuff. It feels like it's a lot of legwork whenever one of these events comes out, which is not really how I want to approach the game. So this kind of super event has allowed me to just come in, play for a couple hours here and there, and be like, all right, feel accomplished. It's nice.
Well, good.
And it reminded me that just when I'm not stressing out over these events, the Monster Hunter World is super fun, which I kind of lose sight of when I'm just all right, how many times do I need to do this quest in the next 24 hours before it goes away? And I'm just feeling angry about everything. So it's nice. Been doing a little online hunting, getting other people into the lobby because they sort of encourage that with these events, and that's been fun too. And
what, sort of playing as a group rather than soloing it?
Yeah, I mean, I like to solo things most of the time, but I think in the last few events, specifically, they've added little extra incentives where if you play in a group with other people, there's a higher chance of you getting certain rewards, which is kind of clever.
Cool. Yeah.
It gets hermits like me to come out of our caves and, play co-op with people. Very sneaky of them.
Get some of those purple drops.
Yeah. So that's been good. And then the other thing that's been going on is, I don't know if this was planned for the second anniversary or whatever, but there is a Monster Hunter crossover event in Dragalia Lost. And over the last few months, I've been kind of like trying to wean myself off that game. Like, I don't really, it's getting a little grindy at this point and kind of repetitive.
Off of Dragalia Lost, you mean?
Off of Dragalia Lost, yeah. But then they're like, wait a minute, Monster Hunter.
Now I'm back in.
Okay, fine, I'll give it another shot. And that's just been fun. It hasn't been like, I don't think it's quite as in-depth as like the big Fire Emblem event that they did last year, but it's got a bunch of fun stuff in it. It's kind of like what you would typically expect from a Monster Hunter event, because they've got the big signature Rathalos dragon. You can summon a couple of Dragalia Lost characters wearing Monster Hunter armor sets, which is kind of fun.
Into Monster Hunter.
Into Dragalia Lost.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
Sorry, this is happening in Dragalia Lost.
I was trying to keep up. I'm like, I can't. I'm not clear on where your games are overlapping.
Yeah, it's not a two-way thing like the Final Fantasy thing was. This is only for Dragalia Lost for the time being.
Gotcha. So there's no Dragalia stuff in Monster Hunter. It's vice versa.
And it kind of made me sad when I realized, like, you know, sometimes when Monster Hunter does these events, like Monster Hunter gets stuff too. It's not just the other game that benefits. So I was wondering what that would mean. I think it would be a good fit, actually, because Dragalia Lost is very, like, dragon-centric, so it would be very easy to take a dragon from there and just have people, like, hunt it down and kill it in Monster Hunter. That seems, actually, now that I mention it, that seems kind of against the spirit of Dragalia Lost, because in Dragalia, all the dragons are, like, your allies and not, like, enemies that you carve up and wear their body parts for armor. So... feel a little bleak.
It's a little dark, yeah.
These allied characters show up so you can hunt them.
It's the darkest timeline.
Maybe that's why they didn't do it.
Interesting. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, there's no sort of a easy way to weave that narrative.
Yeah. There are some evil dragons, maybe, but yeah, maybe not. I mean, it is supposed to be like a family-friendly Nintendo game on some level, so maybe it doesn't quite fit in that well.
And sort of a related note with regards to sort of mobile games, in the past week or so, there was a Monster Hunter mobile game that was revealed, Monster Hunter Riders.
Oh, yeah.
Have you read anything about that? Does that appeal to you at all? Do you think that translates well to a mobile experience?
It looks like not really a traditional Monster Hunter game. It looks like a turn-based RPG almost, where you have like you have a couple party members lined up and they're fighting an enemy. Mm-hmm. I haven't really been following it that closely, just because I think it's only been announced for Japan at this point.
Yeah.
I could be wrong.
I don't believe it's even out yet there. So
yeah, it comes out soon though. But I don't know. Mobile games on that scale are difficult because I need to like just have room in my mobile game schedule. Room that is usually occupied by Dragalia Lost or whatever games taking place at the time.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, like, you liked that Monster Hunter Stories game on the 3DS a few years ago, right?
I did quite a bit, yeah. That was a good game.
That was turn-based.
It's the only Monster Hunter game I've ever played. Yeah. I mean, for more than a minute or two.
Right. You think you'll give this new one a try if it comes out?
Sure, mobile game, I'll give it a shot. Why not?
All right.
See what all the hubbub is about. Turn-based is works for me. I'm a fan of that. I prefer that over real-time for that type of game anyway. So
really,
that is, that's something I would indulge, absolutely. I signed up for they had a pre-registration on Android, so I signed up for that. Yeah. So I think more than anything what that means is I'll get an alert the day it comes out. But
right.
But yeah, I would try that out. Why not? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, if it comes to the U.S. in English in some form, I will definitely take a look at it.
Yeah, that part's important. I need that.
But yeah.
Good.
So anyway, the Monster Hunter event in Dragalia has been pretty good. It's just weird that it started in the middle of just me being back into Monster Hunter again. So good timing, I suppose.
That's how they get you.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's wrap this thing up. That was a lot of video games. If you need any more video game hangover in your brain, you should definitely follow us on Twitter at twitter.com/VGHangover or head to our blog at VGHangover.com. We would also encourage you to hop into our Discord. What's going on in our Discord lately, DJ? Anything fun? It's really just a lot of Animal Crossing lately.
Just, the Animal Crossing hype building up.
Yep. And Nintendo announced that Switch, that Nintendo, what is it? Animal Crossing kind of printed limited edition, fancy Switch edition what the hell am I even
Everybody's
saying?
freaking out about it.
Yeah, and we were kind of losing our mind and talking about how to, do we trade in my old Switch to get the new fancy Animal Crossing Switch? Where can I trade in video games? Do people even do that anymore? So yeah, just all kinds of, really just kind of a lot of old guys trying to keep up with with the current state of video gaming.
And I really like that whenever they come out with one of these limited edition Switches, it's got special Joy-Con colors. And it makes me think back to, like, when they would sell different color Wiimotes. Or, man, do you remember you could buy, like, alternative faceplates for the Xbox 360?
I do remember that, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, it just makes me think of that stuff. And that was kind of a fun customization angle that I never really explored.
Yeah.
And it makes me think, well, that might be kind of fun to have different colored Joy-Cons on my Switch. It's too bad that, it's not just like a little skin that goes over it. It's just $80 for a new pair of Joy-Cons. Or in this case, $300 because you have to buy the Switch along with it.
Right. Well, because the actual Switch console itself has like the screen part has like an embossed Animal Crossing print on the back of it that's pretty fancy.
Great.
So yeah, you can get your little pastel colored Joy-Con to slide onto your current Switch, but you don't get that embossed back. So
yeah, we'll just buy a can of spray paint.
Just stencil your own Switch. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that's what,
I should mention that. Well, I think I did kind of mention that I originally picked up Kentucky Route Zero on Steam because I was looking forward to playing it in like 2014, probably. And then I never did, and I ended up just playing the Switch version because that's where I end up playing everything these days. So I still have a copy of every act of Kentucky Route Zero on Steam that I would like to give away to a listener.
Oh, cool.
In case you're interested in playing this game. So if that is you, just send an email to contact@VGHangover.com and just put Kentucky Route Zero in the subject. And after people send those in, I will just pick somebody from among all those emails and send them this thing. So again, that's for the Steam version of Kentucky Route Zero.
Awesome. Hooray for free video games.
Yeah.
With a retail value of $24.99.
Yeah, right.
Awesome. That's great. Cool. All right. Well, we will be back next week to talk about more video games. Until then, this is Randy Dickinson.
This is DJ Ross.
Thanks for listening to Video Game Hangover. Goodbye.
Good night.
See ya. Are you ready for some football?